We will discuss the succession after I wear the crown.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction video. Today I want to talk about a very popular and controversial scene that happened in the Season 7 finale. I want to talk about the scene between Tyrion and Cersei Lannister. The reason why this scene became so interesting is because Tyrion went to negotiate with Cersei, but it ended as soon as Tyrion realized Cersei was pregnant, and we never got to see what Tyrion said to Cersei to change her mind about helping against the army of the dead. I know everyone already discussed what they thought happened during the scene because I have seen a lot of different videos about it, but I want to propose another option. I just want to go over a few of those scenes again and see if they can all be tied together in a way that not too many people have mentioned. I think the most popular theory is that Tyrion betrayed Daenerys by promising something to Cersei in order to get Cersei to send her troops north to help during the Great War. That's actually not a bad theory at all, but I think it's only partially right. So let me show you a handful of scenes from Season 7, then I will pick them apart and tell you how I came to this specific conclusion. First, let me start with what led to all of this. In the Season 7 finale, there was a huge meeting in the Dragon Pit. Jon, Daenerys, Tyrion, and everyone else wanted to show Cersei the true threat beyond the wall, in hopes of getting Cersei's support in the only war that matters, the Great War. They were hoping they could get a temporary truce with Cersei because they believe they need everyone united together in order to defeat the Night King. Cersei said she would help them stop the Night King under one condition. Once the army of the dead were defeated, Jon Snow would have to stay in the north and not choose sides and help support Daenerys against the Lannisters. But Jon Snow had already bent the knee to Daenerys, and he was not willing to lie and say that he wouldn't help her take back the throne for House Targaryen. This was a deal breaker for Cersei, so she said she was not helping, and that's when she stormed off to the castle. This is what led to Tyrion deciding to go talk to his sister in private, hoping he could convince her to help them anyway. When Tyrion went and talked to Cersei, she made it pretty clear he could not change her mind, but something happened. Something was said to Cersei that persuaded her into going back to the Dragon Pit, where she then said she would send all of her banners north to help Jon and Daenerys. But what could Tyrion have said? What could he have promised Cersei's stubborn ass to go back out there and say this? Many people immediately believed Tyrion had to have betrayed Daenerys in that moment. How else could Tyrion have convinced Cersei to help, unless he gave her an offer she couldn't refuse? Well, we all know whatever Tyrion promised her must not have been good enough, because Cersei ended up lying anyway. Cersei later tells Jaime she isn't helping them. She's not sending any men north. But Tyrion might not have known this. Tyrion may still believe they have a deal. And the reason why I think Tyrion still believes they have a deal is because of a certain look Tyrion had on his face later in the episode. But I'm going to touch on that later. I think Tyrion did offer Cersei something, and that's because of what Cersei said when she got back to the Dragon Pit. When Cersei said she would send all of her banners north, she also said this.
The darkness is coming for us all. We'll face it together. And when the Great War is over, perhaps you'll remember I chose to help, with no promises or assurances from any of you.
Cersei said we will face it together, and when the Great War is over, perhaps you will remember that I chose to help, with no promises or assurances from any of you. She was talking to Jon and Dany when she said that. She didn't get any promises or assurances from Jon or Dany, but she did get one from Tyrion in private. That's why she didn't look at Tyrion when she said that. But the question still remains, what did Tyrion promise or assure Cersei? Now we need to look at the conversation Tyrion and Cersei had in private. During this conversation, there was one thing Tyrion kept saying over and over again. He swore to Cersei that he loved her children. No matter what Cersei thinks of him, she can't deny that Tyrion had love for her kids, which we all know was true. In fact, there was a lot of talk of children during the entire Season 7. Cersei's pregnancy was talked about many times last season, and Daenerys kept talking about not being able to have children of her own. Even Jorah Mormont talked about Jon having children. This was a big theme throughout the whole season, and it had a major presence in the finale as well. And the talk of children is where Tyrion and Cersei's private conversation was cut off.
Maybe Euron Greyjoy had the right idea. Get on a boat. Take those who matter.
You're pregnant.
I think that made it pretty clear that whatever Tyrion said next must have had something to do with Cersei's unborn child. Tyrion knows Cersei loved her children. He knows that Cersei would do just about anything to protect her children. Cersei even reminded us of this during that conversation. She said when that White came charging at her, there was only one thing she was thinking about, and that was keeping her family safe, the ones who matter most, and she was rubbing her belly as she was saying that. That's what tipped Tyrion off that she was pregnant in the first place. When Tyrion figured out Cersei was pregnant, this is when he thought he had Cersei right where he wanted her. Tyrion thought he could pull on those heartstrings by promising safety to Cersei's child, and that would get Cersei to play ball, because he assumed she would do anything for her kids. I think Tyrion promised Cersei something big, but whatever he did promise her was a lie. Think about what Tyrion said to Jon after Cersei left the parlay scene.
I'm pleased you bent the knee to our queen. I would have advised it, had you asked. But have you ever considered learning how to lie every now and then? Just a bit.
I'm not going to swear an oath I can't uphold.
Tyrion told Jon he should have lied. He should have lied long enough for Cersei to help them. Daenerys even agreed, and I think Tyrion went in there with that same attitude. Jon Snow had too much pride to lie to Cersei, but Tyrion doesn't. Tyrion was going to go in there and say whatever he needed to say in order to get Cersei to help them. Tyrion would promise her the stars and the moon if he had to, and I think that's what he did. But I also think he fears that his lie may be coming back to bite him in the ass, and I'll tell you why. Tyrion may have promised Cersei a future alliance, or even a marriage between Cersei's kid and Dany's kid. Now I know that sounds crazy, but just hear me out. Tyrion promised this, thinking he would never have to follow through with it. In Tyrion's eyes, it was an empty promise because Tyrion assumes Daenerys can't have any kids, because Daenerys told him this.
How do we ensure your vision endures? After you break the wheel, how do we make sure it stays broken?
You want to know who sits on the Iron Throne after I'm dead? Is that it?
You say you can't have children, but there are other ways of choosing a successor.
But we know this has been on Tyrion's mind. In the episode right before this, Tyrion was asking Dany about the future. He wanted to know what she intended on doing to keep the wheel broken once she was dead. This pissed Dany off because she didn't want Tyrion thinking about replacing her already, not before she even sat on the Iron Throne. But Tyrion can't help but plan for the future. Daenerys said she can't have kids, but she did say they would talk about a successor once she sat on the throne. So when Tyrion found out Cersei was pregnant, what could he promise her to get her to help? But it wouldn't be a promise he would have to worry about keeping later. Tyrion knows Cersei and Daenerys will never call a truce together, but Tyrion could promise a truce between their children, or even an alliance or marriage. But in the back of Tyrion's mind, he's not worried about this because he knows Dany can't have kids. But that might not be true either. Think about this for a second. When Tyrion asked Cersei if she was pregnant, that's when the scene ends, and it immediately cuts to Jon and Daenerys talking about the future of House Targaryen. This is when Jon tells Dany that maybe she can have kids, maybe Mirri Maz Duur was full of shit. And I think this is interesting because this is a hint as to what Tyrion is telling Cersei as the scene cuts away. Tyrion told Jon he should have lied, so that's what he's doing. He's promising something he knows he can't give, but it backfires at the end of the episode. That's why Tyrion had that look on his face when Jon and Daenerys went into the cabin together. It was like a punch to the stomach because Tyrion realized he might be held responsible for his promise to Cersei, if Daenerys does in fact get pregnant and produce an heir. Now we all know Cersei lied, but Tyrion doesn't know that yet. He still thinks Cersei will want him to hold up to his promises and assurances. That's why Tyrion made that face as Jon and Daenerys was hooking up. He doesn't want this to become a reality because he knows Cersei will want what was promised to her. Or I could be totally wrong, but I feel like whatever Tyrion promised may have something to do with Daenerys having an heir, and that's why he looked so troubled when Jon and Dany was having sex. Then you combine it with all the other scenes I showed you in this video, and I kinda think it fits. That doesn't mean it will happen or that's what did happen, but I thought it was worth mentioning. It's something to consider, but let me know your thoughts on all of this. What do you believe Tyrion promised Cersei? Whatever he did promise her doesn't really matter because Cersei isn't helping, but did Tyrion betray Daenerys anyway? Or did he lie too? Let me know what you think. Before I go, I want to read a few things some of my Patreon supporters had to say about this scene. When I knew I wanted to make this video, I left a post on my Patreon letting everyone know what the video I was making next, and I told them to leave me some thoughts about what happened during the Cersei and Tyrion scene, and this is what some of them had to say. Ottawa Steph said, "The Mad Queen has two priorities, announcing her pregnancy for Mercy and figuring out Tyrion's strategy. She's also psyching herself up for Jaime's confrontation." Casey Lee said, "I honestly feel some form of deal had to have been made. I think Tyrion told her to lie, to say forces were on their way, but he probably wanted her to increase King's Landing's defenses in case the fight in the north fails. There's no way Cersei would have walked out of that meeting originally when Jon said Dany was his queen, and then come back out and fakely offered all her armies, no questions asked, just for the sake of seeming worthy of the throne. That's not how she works." Ronnie Hackett says, "Cersei always has a hidden agenda, and Tywin told her she's not as smart as she thinks. Tyrion, on the other hand, is quite smart, so Tyrion may have used the fact that she was with Jaime's child over her head. However, I just don't see Tyrion in full trust of Cersei. I can't wait to see where you're going to take us on this one, Dan." Maeve Gibson says, "That scene was reminiscent of the scene during the Battle of Blackwater Bay, when Cersei sat on the Iron Throne with Tommen and she was telling him the story of the mother lion and her cub. She spoke of how she would protect him and one day all the other creatures would bow down to him. When Tywin walked into the throne room after having saved the day, Tywin was shown to be the protector and Cersei the cub. When Tyrion killed Tywin, in Cersei's mind, the lions lost their protector and everything fell to ruin. Cersei will not make that mistake again. She is determined to be the protector of her new unborn cub at any cost, and while she's at it, get full revenge on Tyrion, who she blames for everything. She is openly and consciously lying to Tyrion. He represents everything she hates in the world. All the destructive forces, past and present, that have rallied against her. He represents everything she hates in herself as well, because he is able to bring out her the truths that she doesn't want to face. That he is really blameless. That her choices and behavior have been disastrous. I think I'm going to start doing that from now on. Whenever I plan on making a new prediction or theory videos, I will let my Patreon supporters know what it will be about, and to leave me some thoughts so I can feature them at the end of each of those videos. That's a little something extra I can do for those of you who continue to support the channel. So I do appreciate some of that extra feedback. Let me know what you think about what they had to say as well. But I do want to thank everyone for watching. I truly appreciate all of you taking the time out of your day to watch the video. I hope everyone has a great day. I will see you in the next one. Bye.